Now, in terms of abstract thinking, one of the things that is interesting to notice, and assuming that abstract thinking is such an important skill, if not the most important skill in research, we also see that it's almost never explicitly taught. And the reason is because the skills are developed indirectly through the apprenticeship model. The apprenticeship model is basically you learn as you do things. And this is an important way of learning. I'm absolutely not against this way of learning a skill and learning abstract thinking. But we also need to ask what formal training is offered, for example, in PhD programs that offer the opportunity to develop abstract thinking skills. The other reason why abstract thinking is almost never explicitly taught is that research programs tend to focus on methods over thinking. If you look at, and my own university works like that, a lot of the research skills workshops that are offered when researchers are being trained, and this happens at undergraduate, master's, and even PhD level, they are very focused on methods, on helping students understand and apply methods, research methods, appropriately. A third reason is that it's quite difficult to teach metacognition. Metacognition is about learning how your own thinking works, which is also an important part of abstract thinking. So, for example, many times I find myself stuck. I can't see something, but I sense there's something in a bit of information that I'm trying to interpret. And what I use to get unstuck is to evaluate my own thinking, is to think, okay, what assumptions am I making? What angle am I looking at it from that perhaps is blocking, and maybe I can approach it from a different angle. So when I do those things, I'm actually engaging in metacognition. So I am dealing with an abstract thinking challenge by evaluating my own way of looking at whatever I'm doing. So it's difficult to teach these skills. And the fourth reason is that sometimes there's the assumption that good students already know how to think abstractly. In the end, we take a lot of care about accepting students that already show good research skills, including abstract thinking skills. And sometimes we assume that, okay, they are already good. We don't need to do much about developing their abstract thinking skills. So there are a number of reasons why abstract thinking is rarely explicitly taught. And when it happens, it happens based on the supervisor and the relationship with the supervisor. Personally, I had a brilliant PhD supervisory team who complemented each other very well, and a lot of the discussions that I had with them was involving abstract thinking, looking at the big picture about what I was doing, and that was clearly a big influence in the abstract thinking skills that I have developed over the years. We can develop abstract thinking skills by obviously analyzing and writing. We can do it by preparing for the Viva, and also in our publishing attempts. We can write a paper and then we get feedback, and many times that feedback is providing us clues as to how good our abstract thinking was. And also, good reviewers will actually suggest different ways of looking at it, and which helps us to further develop our abstract thinking skills. But in the end, there's no formal training. I don't think I've seen a course, at least in our areas of marketing, tourism, hospitality, events, and sport. I don't think I've been training specifically focused on abstract thinking. Maybe sometimes there are things that are close to it, but if they exist, they are rare. They are not very common. So what we have is an area where there's very limited direct, explicit training about abstract thinking. When it happens, it's indirect. And again, I'm not diminishing this training. I'm not bashing, this is wrong. Actually, it is right. I think the apprenticeship model is great. Discussions with supervisors are great. My argument here is more, I don't think it's explicit enough, and therefore it kind of, there are opportunities that are missed. And my argument is more of, maybe we need to bring more explicit training, not only to highlight the importance of the skill, but also to help people develop their abstract thinking skills more. So it's limited, indirect, it's inconsistent, and it's dependent on supervisor quality. I'm very lucky that I've had two great supervisors that were more than happy to engage in very deep conversations about all things theory. But I know other students who feel they didn't have the same experience, and therefore didn't have the same opportunities to develop their abstract thinking skills.